Have you ever felt invisible, as if no one could truly see who you are? What if I told you that a single glance could change everything? Sofia had always been a discreet woman. At 38, she walked the city streets as if trying to take up as little space as possible. Brown hair tied back in a simple bun, clothes in neutral tones, gray, beige, black, no makeup at all. The bedroom mirror, covered for years with a floral cloth, was avoided like someone who avoids a painful truth. She didn't see herself as beautiful or ugly, just invisible, a common face among so many others. In the hallways of the company where she worked as an administrative analyst, few people even noticed she was there. She greeted everyone with a polite, "Good morning," but rarely received a direct look in return. And when she did, it was brief, distracted, without real interest. The same thing happened at the grocery store, the pharmacy, the bakery. It was as if the whole city only half saw her, a functional, useful shadow, but without any light. Sofia had learned to accept this condition. It didn't hurt anymore. It was simply part of the day. Like the alarm clock going off at 6:30, black coffee with no sugar, the crowded bus. She barely even noticed how much she had faded. Deep down, there were old memories of someone who had once dreamed of being truly seen. As a teenager, she used to admire herself in her grandmother's bedroom mirror, slowly spinning in twirly dresses, imagining balls, parties, exchange smiles. But life had taken care of pruning that dreamy girl. Short, cold relationships, friendships that drifted away, subtle criticisms about her body in quiet ways. All of it had led her to hide behind neutrality. The mornings were always the same. Get up, quick shower, the same pair of black pants and loose shirt, worn brown bag on her shoulder. When passing by the living room mirror, she'd look away. Seeing herself would bring back an old discomfort, a reminder of what she wasn't. At work, Sofia did her tasks with quiet competence. She organized spreadsheets, answered emails, prepared reports, always with her head down, not much conversation. Her coworkers treated her with mechanical politeness, without depth. No one asked how she was feeling. No one cared about her dreams or worries. Maybe because she herself had forgotten them. Sometimes, during lunch break, she'd sit alone in the cafeteria with her simple plate of rice, grilled chicken, and salad. From afar, she'd watch the groups laughing, talking about TV shows, planning happy hours, and she'd think, I'm not missed there, or here, or anywhere. It wasn't exactly sadness, it was habit. The rare attempts at change died early. Once, she bought a red lipstick, but never had the courage to wear it. It stayed in the bathroom drawer until it expired. Another time, she tried on a turquoise blouse at a store, but hung it back on the rack. It doesn't suit me, she murmured to the saleswoman. The weekend also followed the script of invisibility. Grocery shopping on Saturday morning, laundry in the afternoon, TV series at night. Sunday for light cleaning and meal prepping for the week, all without surprises, without risks, without sparkle. Sofia couldn't say exactly when she stopped caring about her own image. Maybe in her early 20s, when her last boyfriend left her for a prettier and more fun friend. Or maybe at family gatherings, when the aunts would say with sweet but cruel voices, "You're such a nice girl. It's a shame you don't take care of yourself anymore." But there was a small, quiet pain that had never left her, the secret wish to be seen. Not for her body, her clothes, or makeup, but truly seen. A gaze that saw all of her, without judgment. But that seemed like something from a movie, from a cheap romance novel, not from real life. And so, on that gray Tuesday morning, Sofia left the house as always, in a hurry, head down, expecting nothing different from the world outside. Little did she know that this day would bring the first thread of light after so many years spent in the shadows. The morning went on like so many others. The sky, covered with gray clouds, matched Sofia's mood. A light breeze rustled the leaves on the sidewalk trees, but she hardly noticed. Her phone buzzed with notifications that didn't matter. The same noisy bus drove past her, kicking up dust. Nothing unexpected. Nothing new. At the bus stop, familiar but distant faces. Men in suits, women with headphones, young people with heavy backpacks. No one looked at anyone else. It was the daily ritual of urban indifference. Sofia adjusted the strap of her worn brown bag on her shoulder and stared at the ground, waiting for the light to change. At work, everything went as usual. Reports, numbers, answered emails. Her boss rushed by, tossing a good morning into the air without stopping. Sofia responded automatically. In the hallway, her colleagues chatted about the latest episode of some series. She listened without really listening. She didn't watch it, wasn't part of it. At 11:30, she left for lunch. She walked through the downtown streets as she always did, looking for a quiet place where she could eat alone. She avoided crowded restaurants, shared tables, noisy places. She wanted silence, invisibility, peace in the dull routine. That's when she decided to step into a new little cafe that had just opened on a side street. The light wood and clean glass storefront caught her eye. It seemed empty, perfect for a peaceful lunch. A small risk in her routine, something she rarely allowed herself. The bell above the door chimed softly as she entered. The aroma of fresh coffee and newly baked bread surrounded her immediately. The place was cozy, with just a few tables, warm lighting, and soft instrumental music playing. Sofia chose a table in the corner, near the window. She took off her coat, adjusted the bag on her lap, and looked at the wooden menu with hand-drawn letters. When the waitress came over, she ordered a fresh sandwich and a latte. A little later, as she waited for her order, she noticed a man sitting at the table next to hers. He seemed to be around 50, with well-kept gray hair, a light blue shirt, and reading glasses resting on his nose. He was reading a thick book, but at one point he looked up and gently set his gaze on Sofia. She felt his eyes on her and quickly looked away. Her heart sped up for no reason. She wasn't used to being noticed. But the man kept his gentle gaze, without invading, without making her uncomfortable. He simply looked at her as if he was seeing something rare. Sofia, unsettled, pretended to fix the strap of her bag, ran a hand over her tied-up hair, lowered her eyes. Inside, she thought, "Why is he looking at me like that? He must have mistaken me for someone else." When the waitress brought her coffee and sandwich, he smiled slightly and said in a calm tone, "Excuse me. I hope I'm not bothering you, but I have to say something." Sofia looked at him, surprised, not knowing what to expect. "You have very beautiful eyes, deep, honest, the kind that tell a whole story without saying a word." Silence. She blinked, confused. Her heart raced again. A compliment? For her? Really? Her face grew slightly warm. She didn't know what to say. "Forgive me if I sound strange," he continued, smiling softly. "But it's rare to see someone with eyes like that. So honest. I couldn't let it go unsaid." Then he returned to his book, as if nothing had happened. No hidden intentions, no attempt to get closer. Just the truth, spoken at the right moment. Sofia sat still for a few seconds, staring at nothing. She felt the weight of the compliment hanging in the air, like a warm breeze breaking the cold of her routine. Her mind spun with questions. Was he serious? Was that really meant for me? My eyes, beautiful. When was the last time someone said something like that to me? She glanced at the reflection in the window beside her. She saw her own brown eyes, for the first time in a long while, and stayed there, looking at herself. There was something different in that moment, a subtle spark she hadn't noticed before. The coffee slowly cooled in the cup, But Sofia didn't care. Something inside her was starting, little by little, to move. She finished her sandwich without hurry. The man had already left by the time she paid the bill and stepped out of the cafe. But the words remained. They echoed in her chest like a soft whisper, impossible to ignore. On the sidewalk, she took a deep breath and walked back to work. The same city, the same streets. But something was subtly different, as if a small crack of light had opened in her shadow. In the days that followed, the phrase echoed in Sofia's mind like a quiet melody that insists on playing even when everything around is silent. You have beautiful eyes, deep, honest. She repeated those words in her thoughts while brushing her teeth, while waiting for the bus, while typing up reports at work. The stranger's calm voice, the simple and sincere way he had said it. It all seemed so unlikely that Sofia even wondered if she had imagined it. But no, she knew it had been real. For the first time in years, someone had truly seen her, and hadn't said a word about her clothes, her weight, her tired expression. He had commented on her eyes. Her eyes. In the elevator mirror, she allowed herself to look. Just for an instant, but enough to notice the brown eyes reflected back at her. Why had she always looked away so quickly? They were normal eyes, maybe, but now they seemed to hold something more than color. A story, perhaps. Or a longing. At Thursday's lunch, as she absent-mindedly cut her salad in the company cafeteria, her mind wandered back to the cafe. The way he had looked at her, without hidden interest, without second intentions. He hadn't asked her name, hadn't asked for her phone number, hadn't invited her anywhere. He had simply planted a seed and left. Why? Sofia smiled to herself. The coworker next to her gave her a curious glance, but she quickly covered it up. Maybe he didn't know, but something new was happening inside her. Something small, shy, but real. On Friday, she decided to wear a blouse that had been sitting in her closet for ages. Light blue, with delicate buttons. A gift from a friend, but she had never worn it. It doesn't suit me, she had thought before. But that day, she took the risk. She put it on, looked at herself in the mirror, quickly, shyly, and left. On the way to work, she noticed discreet glances turning her way. Or had they always been there, and she had just never noticed? She felt a light warmth in her chest. The stranger's compliment still lingered, like a soft perfume hanging in the air. At the end of the day, while gathering the papers from her desk, her boss walked by and said, "New blouse, Sofia? Looks great on you. It brightens up your face." Another compliment. Small, casual, but it added to the first. At home, after her shower, Sofia stood in front of the bedroom mirror, this time, without looking away. The reflected image still made her feel a little uneasy, but she didn't run. She looked carefully. The brown eyes, the gentle shape of her face, the faint lines around her lips. She wasn't a magazine woman, and she didn't want to be. She was real. She remembered the words of the man in the cafe. The kind that tell a whole story without saying a word. What story did her eyes tell? Maybe the story of a woman who had survived losses, silences, fears, who had learned to protect herself by becoming invisible. But also the story of someone who, deep down, still wanted to be seen. Sofia touched her face gently, like someone reconnecting with a long-lost friend. She took a deep breath. "I'm here," she whispered softly to her own reflection. "I'm still here." The tears came without warning, warm and silent, not of sadness, but of relief, of reunion. On Saturday, she woke up early and went for a walk in the park. No makeup, no heels, just herself, the fresh breeze, and eyes wide open to the world. With every step, her body felt lighter. She saw flowers blooming, children playing, people smiling. Everything seemed more alive. Or maybe she was the one finally waking up after so long a sleep. On the way home, she stopped in front of a store window. She didn't look away. She stared at her reflection for a few long seconds and smiled. Something inside her had changed. Small, almost imperceptible, but real. Like the first spark that lights up the darkness before it becomes a flame. And that light was slowly beginning to spread. On Sunday morning, Sofia woke up before the alarm clock. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the crack in the window, drawing golden stripes across the bedroom floor. For a moment, she lay there, watching the light play on the wooden floor. No hurry, no need to get up for another rushed workday. She felt strange, but not in a bad way. There was something different in the air, as if her body and soul were adjusting to a new frequency, slow but steady. It was like the rusty gears inside her were starting to turn again after years of being stuck. She got up slowly and walked to the bedroom mirror, the very one she had avoided for so long, once covered by the floral cloth that now lay folded on the chair. The bare mirror reflected the simple room, the unmade bed, and her. Sofia stood before the glass, hesitant. Her heart beat a little faster. She felt afraid of seeing what she always saw: tiredness, discouragement, dullness. But she took a deep breath. She needed to face it. She looked into her own eyes. For long seconds, she stood there, holding her own gaze in the reflection. She noticed every detail. Her fair skin with a few fine expression lines, her gently arched eyebrows, her subtle eyelashes. But above all, the brown eyes, moist, alive. There was no makeup shine, no fancy lighting. Just her. Real. Whole. And the more she looked, the less she saw the flaws she used to notice. What appeared now was something else. A forgotten delicacy. A quiet strength. A truth hidden beneath layers of fear and silence. I am here, she thought again. I've always been here. She smiled softly, surprised by the expression reflected back at her. When was the last time she had allowed herself to smile at her own reflection? She couldn't even remember. The memory of the man's compliment at the cafe returned like a gentle breeze. He had seen that. What she refused to see. The honest gaze, the story held in her eyes. It wasn't her imagination. It was there, right in front of her, in the mirror. Sofia ran her hand over her face, gently touching her cheeks, chin, lips, like someone rediscovering an old, valuable object thought to be lost. It felt strange, but also beautiful. A meeting with a part of herself that had been asleep for so long. On a sudden impulse, she opened the dresser drawer and took out the old red lipstick, the one she had bought years ago and never used. The case was worn, but the lipstick was still whole. Without thinking too much, she carefully applied the color to her lips. She looked into the mirror. The contrast of the vibrant red against her fair skin and brown eyes surprised her. She didn't look like someone else. She looked like herself, but more alive, more present. She chuckled softly, shyly. Who would have thought? Little by little, the embarrassment gave way to a strange joy. It wasn't empty vanity, it was pride, recognition. The woman in the mirror wasn't perfect, nor as young as the actresses from the shows her co-workers talked about. But she was real, and there was beauty in that. For long minutes, she stood there, looking at herself without hurry. She realized she didn't need anyone else's validation to exist, to be seen. She just needed to start truly seeing herself, and that was happening now, right before her eyes. Suddenly, she remembered all the times she had looked away from store mirrors, elevator doors, shop windows. The feeling of discomfort, the fear of facing her own face. All of that felt distant now, like an old piece of clothing that no longer fit. She smiled again. a bigger, open, honest smile. She liked what she saw. She felt an unexpected urge to go out, to walk, to let the world see what she herself was beginning to see. Without fear, without shame. She put on jeans, a light blouse, and loosely tied her hair, letting a few strands fall free, the red lipstick still on her lips. She grabbed her bag and left. On the sidewalk, the sun lit up the streets, the trees, the unknown faces hurrying past. But Sofia didn't hurry. She walked slowly, her chin up, her gaze open. And for the first time in a long time, she felt present in the world, alive, whole. The reflection she used to deny now walked beside her with every step. Sunday went by peacefully, but something stirred in Sofia's heart. It wasn't restlessness, nor anxiety. It was a light vibration of excitement, as if new possibilities were taking shape on the horizon. On Monday, before leaving for work, she stopped in front of her open wardrobe. For years, her clothes had been a parade of neutral shades: gray, black, beige, brown, safe colors, invisible colors, colors that helped her go unnoticed in the world. But that day, something changed. Her fingers moved along the hangers until they found a dress tucked away in the back of the closet. Royal blue. A birthday gift from a cousin. Never worn. Too bold for me, she had thought at the time. But now the blue seemed to call her. She took the dress off the hanger, hesitant. The morning light lit up the soft, vibrant fabric. Sofia smiled without noticing. She tried the dress on in front of the mirror. The blue brought out the brown in her eyes. It highlighted her skin tone. It carried a different energy, lively, brave. For a moment, she almost put the dress back in the closet. The old fear whispered, "They'll look at you. They'll comment. Better wear your usual black." But the whisper lost its strength against the reflection in the mirror. "I want to be seen," she said softly, looking at the woman finally showing herself. She took a deep breath and decided the blue would stay. On the way to work, she felt discreet glances. The bus driver gave her a brief smile. An elderly lady at the stop adjusted her hair and said, "What a beautiful color, dear. You've brightened the day." Sofia thanked her with a shy but genuine smile. For the first time, she didn't feel invaded or uncomfortable with the attention. It was different. It was as if she was giving the world permission to see her, because now she was seeing herself. At the office, her coworkers noticed. One of the girls from the team commented, laughing, "Wow, Sofia, you look gorgeous. That blue is so you. Why haven't you worn it before?" Sofia shrugged lightly, smiling. "I guess I didn't know," she replied, honestly. And it was true. For so long she had denied her own presence, her own glow, that she had forgotten what it felt like to take up space with ease. At lunchtime, she decided to walk a bit through the downtown streets. The sun was shining brightly, the sky clear. The shop windows reflected her image. But this time, she didn't look away. On the contrary, she stopped in front of one, where mannequins wore colorful clothes, and stared at her own reflection. The royal blue dress highlighted her figure. Her loose brown hair, the subtle lipstick, the attentive eyes. Sofia saw herself fully. Beautiful, without excuses, without concessions. It wasn't about beauty standards. It was about truth. And in that moment she understood. The color didn't come from the dress. It came from her. It came from the gaze that was beginning to see with kindness. From the soul that was no longer hiding. From the heart that was tired of living small, shrunken. She remembered the man from the cafe. The unexpected compliment. He had opened a crack, but the one who had opened the whole door was her. Sofia smiled at the reflection. "I'm here, and I won't hide anymore." She continued her walk through the colorful streets, feeling the wind play with the blue dress. She passed by a flower shop and allowed herself to stop. She bought a small pot of violets, intense, vibrant color, and took it home. That night, as she ate dinner alone in her lit-up kitchen, she looked at the violets on the table. Small, delicate, but full of presence, like her. Her phone buzzed. A message from an old friend. "I saw you today downtown. You looked beautiful. We need to grab coffee soon." Sofia smiled. The world was responding to her change. But more important than that, she was responding to her own truth. She carried the pot of violets to her bedroom and placed it beside the mirror. Tomorrow, she thought, she would try on the coral blouse forgotten in the drawer. Why not? There were so many colors to discover, so many versions of herself to reveal. She lay down in bed, closed her eyes, and fell asleep with a peaceful smile. For the first time in a long time, she dreamed of light, of color, of life. The blue of the dress kept shining in her mind, not as just another accessory, but as a silent symbol of what was being born inside her. And she knew she would never be the same again. The week went by quickly. Sofia barely noticed time flying between commitments, tasks, and small daily discoveries. But what caught her attention the most wasn't on the outside. It was the inner movement, subtle and constant, that made everything around her feel different. Every morning, she looked at herself in the mirror with less fear, and with more curiosity. The clothes that had been forgotten in the back of the closet came back to life. The coral blouse worn on Tuesday, the printed skirt on Thursday, the gold necklace that hadn't seen daylight in months. With each choice, a part of her revealed itself, as if she had worn a heavy gray cloak for years and was now removing it, layer by layer. At work, the effect was also noticeable. Sofia began to speak up more in meetings, to share her opinions firmly, without fear of making mistakes, without fear of being judged. Her boss praised her twice in the same week. Her coworkers looked at her with a different kind of respect. Some with admiration. But the most surprising thing wasn't how others saw her. It was the way she was now seeing herself. On Friday night, after a long, warm shower, Sofia sat in front of the bedroom mirror. She picked up the red lipstick and carefully applied it to her lips, just as she had days before. Then she played with her hair, pinning some strands, letting others fall loose. She tried out different smiles in the reflection, and they all felt right. She looked into her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she liked what she saw. There was a living woman there, with a story, with marks, with strength. Not the kind of perfection seen in magazines, but real beauty, born from imperfections, silent struggles, small victories that almost no one notices. Sofia smiled wide. She didn't need to run from mirrors anymore. On the shelf, the little pot of violets added color to the room. The vibrant color of the flowers reminded her of the royal blue dress, the coral blouse, the new choices, and also of the unexpected compliment from that man at the cafe, the spark that had started it all. She thought of him with gratitude. She didn't know his name, his story, and probably would never see him again. But he'd had the courage to see what she herself had denied, a gaze full of truth, a beautiful gaze. His courage had awakened hers. Sofia got up and opened the window. The night was cool, quiet. The gentle breeze played with the curtains, bringing the distant scent of flowers and wet earth. Outside, the city lights shone softly. She took a deep breath, feeling the clean air in her lungs. And she realized how much she had changed. Before, she would have quickly closed the window, afraid the wind would mess up her hair or let dust into the room. Today, she let the wind come in. Let it mess everything up. Let it carry away what no longer served her. Her phone buzzed with a new message from her friend. "Saturday afternoon, coffee? I want to hear all about you. You've changed, you know? Changed. Sofia smiled, not because she had become someone else, but because for the first time, she was allowing herself to be who she had always been. On Saturday, she woke up early, put on comfortable jeans, a light blouse with a floral print, and let her hair fall loose. A touch of lipstick, small earrings, and the gaze. That lively, present gaze that no longer hid. At the cafe they had arranged to meet, she arrived before her friend. She sat by the window, where the soft morning light gently touched her face. She ordered hibiscus tea, and while waiting, looked around. People walked along the sidewalk, laughing, talking. The city pulsed, and so did Sofia. When her friend arrived, her eyes widened. Wow, Sofia, what happened to you? You're glowing. Sofia gave a calm smile. I just decided to truly see myself, she replied. Her friend laughed, touched. Finally, I always told you there was something special about you. Sofia tilted her head playfully. Maybe I just needed to believe it myself. As they talked, Sofia noticed something in the cafe's window, her own reflection, smiling softly. She didn't look away. She didn't run. That was her, whole, alive, real. And deep in her eyes, that light which had started with a simple compliment was now a steady flame. A woman who knew. She no longer needed validation from the outside. The gaze that mattered most was her own.